If you go do a challenge mode at level 30, right off the bat, you're just going to get mollywopped. It's absolutely ruthless. What's going on, everybody? Johnny5 Live here, and I have a final Tom Clancy's Division review. This is my first final review, and I'm going to be doing things a little bit differently this time. I'm also going to be giving a score and what I would score the game at the very end of this review. There's a lot of things that hold the game back, and I'm going to go into all the different categories from the character creation story, the Tom Clancy's IP, enemy types, itemization, the graphics, the dark zone, and the endgame. That's all the stuff that I'm going to cover in this video. There's a lot of negatives in some of those areas that I'm going to talk about. So before I get into that, I want to specify the fun stuff. So for me, I was really impressed by the graphics, 100%. The graphics were groundbreaking. I've never seen anything like it in any video game. And my cousin made a comparison that basically there hasn't been a jump in quality in a game like this since, say, Perfect Dark to Halo. I haven't seen a jump like that in game graphics and engine quality in a very, very long time. This game sets the bar high. There are so many little details in this game, from the way the snow affects, the water effects, and the destruction. The sound is incredible. This snowflake engine, or snowdrop engine, whatever it is absolutely groundbreaking. And the game itself immerses you into it by just painting you a very, very realistic, high quality, high graphic visual immersion. It's absolutely stunning. I played for a total of 65 hours, and I will be playing it more again in the future. But that 65-hour experience, a lot of it we were just taking a look at certain environments, stopping in areas to soak up the enjoyment of just what the art looks like. So if you're not into art like I am, you might not get as much appreciation out of this. I really enjoyed what they did with this game, so that in itself gave me quite a bit of enjoyment. Let's just say there was no shooting in the game whatsoever, I would still give this game a subpar rating. It deserves recognition for its quality, its graphical quality. So I believe it deserves points there, and you can't take away anything from the Division if everything else failed, because it's still got some very impressive visuals, and that alone deserves somewhat of a recommendation, and you have to commend them for their efforts there. It's worth checking out the game. It's worth picking up just to say, wow, I experienced that. If you did not experience it, you certainly are missing out on the next gen level of graphics and destruction. Absolutely worth it for that alone. So nobody out there can really shit on the Division as a whole, because it's done a lot of good things, even if the gameplay is lacking somewhat. Now, going into more of the fun stuff, I always have fun playing games co-op. It doesn't really matter what kind of a game I'm playing. As long as I'm playing it with a friend, it's going to be fun. Now, we played this game with, 2, 3, 4 of us at times, and we played the whole game co-op from the very beginning right to the end, and that was a lot of fun. The game is a great co-op experience. I highly recommend, if you have a friend to play this with, you're going to get some enjoyment out of this, especially if you're taking on things that are a step ahead of you. So the leveling up process from level 1 to 30 was quite enjoyable for us. Those are all the different things I loved about the game. I had my fun out of the game. 65 hours of fun. I paid $150 for this game, for all the content, the clothing, the whatever, the season pass, all that stuff. You compare that to something like maybe Fallout 4, where I got 400 hours out of, and still more to come with the DLC. You're like, well, one's valued way higher. You get more bang for your buck. That is true, but if you look at a game like Uncharted, you're going to have, maybe an 8-hour experience for the same price as any of these games, but it's going to be a much higher quality. So that's the important thing to note here. The quality of your 60-hour experience is really high. Sure, they don't have the most engaging story, we'll get into that, and there's certain flaws here and certain flaws there, but if you're playing with a friend and you have a good high-running PC, you're going to go in there and just be blown away if you have any appreciation for game development, game design, and game evolution. This is certainly raising the bar, and it is absolutely a joy for that 60-hour experience. We're going to get into the somewhat negative stuff now. First of all, the game starts you off with the character creation, and it's very lackluster. Everybody looks the same. There's maybe 10 head choices to choose from. The game has these amazing visuals, these amazing looking characters, but they spent no time into creating variations. That is said true for the enemy types as well. Let's jump into the story. So the story is like everybody dies to some smallpox virus, and then you show up in the aftermath. It would have been much better if you were in the division while it was happening, while the outbreak was happening. I feel like there's many lost opportunities for these really cool scenarios, and in many parts of the game there's these holotape things that pop up and create 3D visualizations of what happened here. There was a gunfight, this guy broke out, this lady was killed, this person was taken hostage, and you just get to see this like still 3D thing of what happened, and what happened there 3 years ago or whatever seems a lot more interesting than what's actually happening right then and there. If you were in these scenarios, you would feel a sense of story, you would feel a sense of character development, you would get to know certain characters in the world, and so died here and we had to help this person there. So if the story took place while this was happening, we would have had a much better story in the game. So it feels like the story was swept under the rug a bit. If you want to get all the information and all like the know-how of what happened here, you're going to have to run around the world and collect all these collectibles. And it's just a whole bunch of little clips spread out randomly throughout the game, and there's like 600 of them. So in order to go collect all of these things, you're going to want to, shoot yourself by the end of it. It's just absolutely mundane. So the story is literally swept under the rug for you to go find and spend dozens of hours just trying to uncover it, and it actually make you hate the world more. So there are no memorable characters throughout the story either, in terms of storytelling and who's talking to you. I think there was one lady with a eye patch named Fei Lao or something, and that just didn't do it for me. That's probably the only character that I actually remember, and I don't remember anything she told me. It's just not coming to mind. So there's actually nothing memorable because I can't remember anything. This doesn't feel like a Tom Clancy game. It really doesn't. There's no stealth. I was hoping for more stealth play, like almost like a Splinter Cell. There would have been lots of opportunities for you to use the cover, move from cover to cover, not be detected, infiltrate a certain area, get in there, maybe even break some necks or sneak up to some people. There could have been stealth gadgets. There could have been, all sorts of cloaking devices. They could have done a ton of different things with the Tom Clancy's IP and made things more engaging in a tactical rogue-like shooter. So if they're not following the Tom Clancy IP to a T, Tom Clancy title holds the game back. There was a few times where I was like, man, this would have just been way more interesting if they added zombies into the game or made this like Raccoon City. And while that's cliche and we've all had enough of zombies and stuff in the past, it would have worked here. It would have been really great because you could have had these big giant mutated enemy types and crazy feral humans, and I know we've all gotten our fill of that, but this game really could have benefited from it. So something that's non-Tom Clancy-esque would have been much more appreciated, considering the mechanics and the gameplay and the graphics are really solid. It just needed something extra. So for me, it didn't really feel like a great Tom Clancy game, and it would have actually fit better somewhere else. Alright, let's talk about enemy types, as this is a shooter and you're going to be fighting waves and waves and mobs of enemies. Everyone in the beginning of this game is a dude named Alex with a hoodie and a hat. They're all very generic, common thugs, and you'll be fighting these guys over and over again for quite a while until you hit level 10 or 15. And then in the mid game, everyone seems to be these enemy types named cleaners, and they're just guys with gas masks and flamethrowers. And then near the end game, everybody is like a snow trooper. They're just SWAT members in white outfits. And that's pretty much the gist of it. That's your 3 enemy types that you're going to experience throughout the game. Then you have variations of those guys, which are bosses, and they're not really bosses at all, because a traditional boss in a game means that they are doing something ability-wise that is different than the regular enemies. So they are not bosses. They're not doing anything special. They don't have a special weapon. They don't have special tactics. There's no scripted event that they are engaged in. They're simply bullet sponge versions of the previous enemy types with a name above their head, and that's it. They have one boss in the game. At the very end, it's a helicopter, so you shoot a helicopter that shoots missiles at you, and then you take it out. While it was awesome, it was just kind of like, well, that's what you're giving me? It would have been appreciated to see more of that. That's pretty much it for enemy types, and there's not much to say there, unfortunately, so it's more of the same everywhere. Itemization in the game is very lackluster. I was somewhat disappointed. They decided to do the apparel route, where you have to wear the apparel, and that's like your costume, and it goes over all your other stuff. And I don't really have a problem with that, as long as you're getting somewhat of a progression. But everything in the game is handed out to you randomly, it's all it goes as cool as a toque, a beanie, and you know, a hat, a hoodie, and that's about it. Like you get some basic jackets and shoes. It's just purple, blue, green. You get different colors, you get different textures. And if you ever want a rad cool helmet, like, hey, I've worked my way up from a civilian, we killed these guys, and now we have these like neat little helmets, and at the very end of the game you're like a SWAT guy wearing Kevlar suits and shoulder pads and knee pads. That's not in this game. And if you do want a helmet, you're going to have to go out and spend $15 on one of these DLC packs that give you, you know, unique army helmets. Yet all the guys you're killing, you could have just taken one off them. But instead, Ubisoft has unlocked it behind a paywall. And to be honest, I bought all that stuff, and I ended up using the civilian clothes most of the game anyways. We wanted to be matching, so we found matching clothing. And the only way to do that was through civilian stuff, or he buys the DLC and looks exactly like me. And then the actual armor itself, you get different vests, you get different knee pads, you get, you know, holsters. But none of that changes on your character. I think the knee pads change color. And that's about it. You're not going to get any cooler looking stuff. So when you find a face mask and you put it on, you're not wearing a face mask. They're just icons with stats. Makes it even more meaningless and gives it less impact and value and excitement. The weapons are pretty much all the same with the exception of RNG talents. So sometimes you get a random talent if you meet the requirement, and it does maybe increase damage by 3% or some little number like that. But it's all a numbers game, and it has this lack of immersion in the sense that this AK is better than this AK, but they're manufactured at the same place. Well, why is this one better than this one? Oh, it's because it has +3 damage or whatever, but it doesn't really make any sense. Whereas in a game like Borderlands, it makes sense because everything's jerry-rigged. That means like, oh, this one was jerry-rigged better than this one, and it makes sense. In this game, it just makes no sense, no rhyme or reason, so everything just becomes this, it's a blue icon or a purple icon, and it does this, and I'll put the same mods, I'll take the mods off my old weapon and put it on this one, and now it feels the exact same, but I watch their sponges go down faster. Weapons are very unappealing in this game, and I feel like they could have done more with the talents, abilities, skills, and weapon progression, like putting different mods on, incendiary rounds. They could have done a lot of better things with that, like if we want to take out the cleaners, we're going to have to use, you know, certain types of ballistics. We're going to have to use explosive rounds to hit their tanks, and you should be able to switch between those quickly. And if we want to take out these thugs, it'd be better to use incendiary rounds because they just catch on fire because of all their clothing. If we want to take out the SWAT guys, it'd be better to use armor-penetrating slugs, and being able to switch between maybe 4 or 5 different weapons and have certain ammos equipped in them or certain modifications on them would have added a lot more strategy in the game and longevity and tactical situations and thinking about what weapons you're going to bring with you. So there's a number of things that they could have done to improve the itemizations of weapons. They just didn't even bother to do so. Let's talk about the Dark Zone. The Dark Zone is pretty broken, but the first time you enter it, it's fun. The first time you go into the Dark Zone, you have fun, but then you'll learn that the PvP is too punishing. You lose like 3 Dark Zone levels if you kill someone, go rogue, and then get killed. And then the reward for killing someone and staying rogue and completing it, the risk versus the gain is about 1/100th of a difference. If you kill someone, go rogue, and stay alive, it's like a 1% gain. If you kill someone, go rogue, and die, you're 3 steps back. It's a 300% loss. So the risk versus reward is non-existent. It's all risk, and there is no reward. Well, you can kill someone and take all the gear that they collected. Well, let me tell you, all the gear that you're going to collect in the Dark Zone is going to be subpar to that of what you can get in a challenge. Sometimes you might get a yellow, sometimes you might get an upgrade, but it's usually garbage compared to what you can craft with Phoenix points. So when you're going in the Dark Zone, all you're doing is you're farming blue, purple, green, whatever. You don't even care what the item is. You're just going to run over to it, you're going to pick it up, and when you get it back to your stash, you're just going to deconstruct all. When somebody kills you and takes your gear, they're just taking your deconstruction. At first, it was a lot of fun grouping up with people and having controversial wars. I made a whole Dark Zone Chronicles series where crazy stuff was happening. There's a lot of fun things that go on in the Dark Zone. Lots of fun little situations. But later on, what's going to happen is these min-maxers who have been doing their dailies, have been doing their stuff, they're going to get gear that's so good that honestly, they can take out 10 players all by themselves. They definitely need a proper PvP arena. They need some kind of 4v4 or some kind of game mode, save the hostages, some sort of counter-terrorism thing. They need something like that to make the game's PvP a little bit more enjoyable. Alright, let's talk about the Endgame. So the Endgame is pretty easy to break down. You go to the Dark Zone and you farm for subpar items. Those items will hopefully be upgrades. The rest, you're just going to deconstruct them into materials, and you're going to also hopefully get some Phoenix points while out in the Dark Zone. Phoenix points are used to craft high-end items, and you're going to need a lot of them. And then you get the recipe with your Phoenix points, and then you need more Phoenix points to craft the item for that recipe. And it's always going to be randomized. It's going to have random stats, so you might get an awesome weapon the first time, you might proc the best item in the game, or it might take you 1,000 times. That's the end game, is getting Phoenix points. And by getting Phoenix points, you have to either farm daily hard missions, which are actually very easy and boring, and it makes you want to pull your eyes out. So you go do 2 of those a day, you get a bit of Phoenix points for that. Go to the Dark Zone, farm bosses, you get a bit of Phoenix points for that. And then all the items in the game that you're acquiring in the end game, you deconstruct all of them because you need those materials with your Phoenix points. So every single piece of loot that you find end game is just a construction part. You see an awesome weapon? No, it's not an awesome weapon. It's just a part. Do that for maybe 30-40 hours until you have enough Phoenix points to craft yourself a yellow set. And once you have a yellow set, you can now go do challenge mode missions. Challenge mode missions give you a yellow for completing it. And that yellow is likely going to be worse than anything you can craft with Phoenix gear. So you spent the whole end game getting yellows to go get worser yellows from challenge mode. So that's it. Once you get to your challenge mode, you're getting crappy yellows. It's not challenging at all if you have the gear check, and that's all challenge mode is. It's a gear check. If you go do a challenge mode at level 30 right off the bat, you're just going to get mollywopped. It's absolutely ruthless, and it makes you excited. It makes you excited for the challenge ahead. You think you have to do things tactically, you have to use abilities to CC them, but that's wrong, because once you get the gear, then you're just going to go walk through it like it's hard mode, which is easy. It's just a gear check, and then once you're farming challenge mode, you're getting Phoenix points. That's what endgame is. More Phoenix points. Craft another item. Oh, it's worse. Deconstruct it. Craft another item. Oh, it's worse. Deconstruct it. Oh, got an upgrade. Sweet. And now you have all these upgrades. What are you going to do in the game? Go gank people in the Dark Zone and go pick on noobs. And that's how your experience ends with the Division. So I didn't even get full yellow gears. I didn't even get to the point where I wanted to go kill noobs and do that, because I can foresee what's ahead of me. I beat a couple challenge modes. I got some yellows. Alright, well, what's the next step? There's nothing to incentivize me to get my gear up, to get me stronger, to get me into the next chapter of the game, because there is no next chapter. The next chapter is just go gank noobs until you're endlessly bored. It was not worth it for me to play this game another 40-50 hours to see my character improve, because there is no tactical challenging mission, and that's where this game falls short. It needs something above challenge mode. But luckily, up to that point, for me at least, I put in a good 65 hours, and I enjoyed all the things that I mentioned at the beginning of the game. It was a great, high-quality, 65-hour experience for me for a lofty price of $150, and hopefully the content in the future kind of makes up for the subpar, lackluster, mediocre endgame that is of right now. I'll be revisiting those changes in the DLC packs as they're released and give my opinion on them moving forward. But as of right now, I've given you guys my final thoughts, and all in all, I have to sum this game up with my final score. It's going to be a 7 out of 10 for the final score. For me, an average game is a 5. I can't give this game anything less than a 7, because they have raised the bar on what game engines are capable of doing. They have raised the bar on animations, graphics, destruction. So overall, I can't give this game less than a 7 out of 10. Absolutely not. But at the same time, it doesn't really get much higher than that, and it's the graphics that are holding it above the gameplay. So in terms of gameplay, it's an average game. That's my thoughts and opinions on the Division. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. Please like, subscribe, and comment. And I'm Johnny5 Alive, and I will see you guys in the next video.
Jumping text runner.
I didn't find it, remember?
God,
She's surrendering.
Why can't you guys
There we go.
get your emotes, man? Get them.
She's surrendering.
Oh shit!
Oh no!
Guys, what?
What's going on, my fellow gamers? Johnny5 Live here, and I want to give my final thoughts on the Fallout 4 Automatron DLC pack. I'm going to be doing things a little bit differently now. I'm going to just give my thoughts on it, and